Hello, Bruce.
Hi, Simon. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Factoraly.
Yes, indeed.
What is another episode of Factoraly, Simon?
Well, it's kind of similar to all the previous episodes of Factoraly, but about a different topic.
Yes, true.
For those who don't know, Factoraly is a weekly podcast where I, Simon Wells,
And I, Bruce Fielding,
come together and we pick a particular subject which may or may not be of any interest, and we jolly well make it interesting.
we try to, or we find something that's incredibly interesting and try and make it succinct.
Yes, indeed. Today is going to be very much the latter. We seem to have picked a rather big subject.
Well, we say we picked.
Well,
We have a wheel,
we do.
a sort of a randomizing wheel, which I've just added to. So you will be pleased to know that the current Factoraly wheel has on it the grand number of 515 entries.
Oh my goodness. That should keep us going for a while, shouldn't it?
Hopefully.
What's that, about 10 years worth?
Yes.
Great. Good. Brace yourselves, everyone.
So what did it choose for us this week, Simon?
Well, this week our lovely wheel has chosen for us the topic of radio.
Radio. I love the radio. Do you like the radio?
I love a radio, yes. Do you have a favourite station that you listen to, or has it changed over the years?
Well, yes. So when I was very young, I used to listen to Radio Luxembourg in bed, like sort of with a little transistor radio. So before that, my mother used to love listening to the Home Service,
Right, yes.
which is now called Radio 4,
On the wireless.
on the wireless. Yes.
Those beautiful old sort of wooden implements that you
Yes.
turned a big knob and then sort of 30 seconds later some sound
Yes.
eventually started hissing
Yes,
out.
when the valves heated up.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
But I think I've got one. Well, I know I've got one downstairs
Have you?
that has all the old stations on it, like Hilversum,
Oh.
which is in Scandinavia. So
Huh.
I was thinking one day of going to visit all the stations that are on an old radio's dial,
Yes.
which would be quite fun to do.
How interesting. I wonder how many of them are still going.
Well, exactly. I mean, I know Luxembourg is because I've been there.
Yes, you have, haven't you? Hang on. See our previous episode on I Can't Remember. You met Kid Jensen, didn't you?
I did.
And he had you on for a little chat.
Yes. It's when I went to Luxembourg. I accidentally found my way into Radio Luxembourg.
Which episode was that? Was it Holidays?
Probably.
Can't remember. Yeah, there's too many to keep track of.
We can look it up and I'll put something on the show notes with a link to it.
Yes.
Talking of show notes,
Ooh.
because we don't have room for everything, we have a blog.
Yes, we do.
So if you go to factoraly.com,
Factoraly.com.
yes, and you go there and look up today's episode on radio, you will find a whole host of stuff that will have you doing nothing else for ages. Broadcast is an interesting word, because we talk about ourselves as being spermologists,
Yes.
which are people who collect things, but it's also about seeds. And broadcasting is also about seeds. It's when you get a handful of seeds in your hand and you sort of throw them with, I don't know why I'm showing you with and you sort of throw them with a spreading motion. And that's called broadcasting.
Is it?
Yes,
So it's sort of scattering widely.
exactly.
How wonderful. I didn't realise that.
So that's the origin of broadcast. But what's the origin of radio?
So radio goes back to Latin radius.
Okay.
And originally the word radius had two meanings. One was the spoke of a wheel, which is why we have a radius in terms of calculating things to do with circles.
Yep.
It's half the diameter.
Okay.
It also meant a ray or a beam of light, which is where we get radiate and radiation and things like that. The first time it was actually turned into radio was in 1881, used by Alexander Graham Bell. And I hadn't realised this. To me, he's the telephone guy. But he invented something called a photophone,
Okay.
which uses light to transmit information, a bit like sort of telegraph, but with light instead of wires.
Wow.
Really ahead of its time. And he didn't like the name, and someone suggested, well, instead of calling it the photophone, why didn't you call it the radiophone? They just made up this word. And apparently Bell was actually more impressed and prouder of that invention than he was of the telephone. He thought that was the thing that was going to make his name.
Well, given that he didn't invent the telephone.
Yeah, sure. So yes, that's where it comes from.
Wow. Interesting.
I think we're pretty much going to be talking about radio, which is to say the transmission of information, conversation, music, etc. over the radio waves, which you pick up on some form of receiver and listen to it. That is a radio.
Yeah.
But the technology of radio, the technology of transmitting stuff via radio waves, is so big and so broad. Let me list some of the things that we use in our everyday life that use the technology of radio.
Okay.
So, other than radios, radio waves are also used in TV, mobile phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, air traffic control systems, radar, remote controls, walkie-talkies, and the internet. So if we're talking about radio as a concept, as a wide thing, it covers all of that.
Wow.
I don't think we've ever accidentally stumbled on quite such a potentially broad topic. We could talk about any one of those things and we would still technically be talking about radio.
And the subsets of each of them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it's really big. Yeah. Where do you want to go from there?
I think we should talk about Marconi.
Okay, that's a good start.
It's a good jump.
Yes.
I mean, basically, the man who kind of invented radio.
Yep, sure. What do you know about Marconi then, other than the fact that he's Italian?
Or no, actually, he's British.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
But he's called Guglielmo Marconi.
Yeah, British. Sir Guglielmo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
He was knighted. He was also made an Italian senator and a marchese.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so he's
not bad.
basically a knight and a senator and a marquis.
Wow.
In lots of different. Yeah, he was quite a man. He was the first inventor to win a Nobel Prize.
Oh, really?
He shared it with a guy called Ferdinand Braun.
Mm-hmm.
In 1909, he won the Nobel Prize for wireless telegraphy.
Uh-huh.
He set up in his attic and he started to experiment with electricity. And there's a link between Marconi and Jameson whiskey.
Is there now?
There is.
Racking my brains. Was Marconi a bit of a drinker?
He's a bit of a player.
Oh, was he?
And he's married several times and had several affairs.
Huh.
But one of his marriages was to the heiress of Jameson whiskey.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
His best man was a guy called Benito something.
Okay. Okay. Well, that took a turn.
Yeah, he was, very well connected, very famous, very wealthy, and did an awful... He had a 220-foot yacht.
Crikey.
Which he called Elettra, which is also the name of his daughter.
Ah.
This is after the First World War.
Right.
And in this 220-foot yacht, he had a lab which could hold 35 people. The most amazing chap.
What an interesting fella.
Really, and if you go to our show notes, you'll find out a lot more about Marconi. I'll try and keep the salacious stuff to a minimum. But yeah, quite a man.
Wow.
What did you find out about Marconi?
Well, nothing nearly as interesting as that. I sort of looked on his technical achievements rather than his personal ones. So yes, he sort of, there were already theories about the potential existence of radio waves. And in fact, they were first proven to exist by a German physicist called Heinrich Hertz.
Oh.
Who gave his name to the measure of frequency, Hertz.
Yes.
And he proved their existence in 1886, and then Marconi started working in the mid sort of 1890s, building upon these theories and seeing how we could possibly use them.
Yeah.
And one of his first things was that he sent a Morse code message over radio waves rather than over telegraph wires. Yeah. And the distance that travelled was 1 kilometre, and then a couple of kilometres, then several kilometres. Eventually, 1901, Marconi sent the first transatlantic radio signal from a transmitter in Cornwall to, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Newfoundland. Newfoundland. There you go. Sorry, Americans.
Marconi was really, really famous in his own lifetime. It wasn't one of these things where, and so we discovered after he died. No, he was really wealthy. He was really well known. When he died, every single radio station in the world went silent for 2 minutes.
Wow. So he was very influential then.
Massive, yeah. Because it travels at the speed of light, doesn't it?
It does, in a vacuum it does. In air it's ever so slightly slower than the speed of light. But still, it's
Close.
pretty darn quick, yeah.
And it goes on forever.
A
radio signal will carry on forever until it's absorbed by something.
Right, yes, okay. Yeah.
So that's why you get lots of people sort of like listening to the planets to see if they can hear anything, because a planet will stop a radio signal because it'll absorb it. But in the vacuum of space, as you say, radio signals go on forever.
They do, yeah.
At light speed.
Yeah. It's a really hard concept to get your head around. It's essentially radio waves are electromagnetic waves, as is light and as is infrared.
Yes.
But they exist in different frequencies. So somehow or other, I can sort of get my head around the idea of sending music or speech or information over radio waves, but over light waves, that doesn't seem right to me, because light is something you see, whereas radio is something that's invisible and mystical, and that's what its purpose is.
Yeah.
To get a little bit techie for a brief moment, I won't linger long around here. You know what I'm like. I studied microelectronic engineering at university.
Oh wow. Okay. Here comes the science, folks.
And we did a section on radio waves, and this has just always stuck with me. It's not a very useful bit of information, but it amuses me. Essentially, the differences between AM and FM radio.
Mm-hmm.
AM stands for amplitude modulation.
Yep.
FM stands for frequency modulation.
Yep.
When you send out the radio signal, you can either alter the amplitude or alter the frequency, and that somehow mysteriously allows you to...
What is amplitude and what is frequency?
Amplitude is sort of power and the size of the radio wave. Frequency refers to the length of the radio wave.
Got it.
The actual wavelength.
So you've got long wave and short wave.
Exactly, yeah, things like that. And what you actually end up with is that AM has a longer wavelength than FM, and it goes further. So you could be listening to an AM station much further away from the transmitting station than you could with FM.
Right.
But FM has a shorter wavelength but better clarity. So you'll often find that FM stations are more locally based, whereas AM is more national.
Yeah.
And the frequencies involved, when you turn your dial, no one uses a dial anymore, Simon. When you set your radio set to listen to a particular frequency, Radio 4 is sort of 93.5.
Those are megahertz, aren't they?
Those are in megahertz, whereas AM is only in kilohertz. That's a very, very potted explanation, and I could get really nerdy.
But then you get long wave as well, don't you? I mean, long wave is Radio 4 on long wave. I think they've stopped using it now, but it used to be like about sort of 1300.
That's right, yeah. So long wave is even longer, slightly less clear, but good for sort of nationwide or even international broadcast.
So how come you can hear shortwave stuff from Russia?
I don't know. Magic, probably.
Because there's a thing called UVB-76.
Is there now?
Which is called the Doomsday Radio, or the Buzzer.
Ah.
And it's been going since 1976. They think that it might be something to do with spying. Because it got very, very busy just before the Ukraine intervention by Russia.
Right.
So this UVB-76 often contains little snippets of speech along with this buzz. And if you go to our show notes, I'll be playing you a YouTube video which shows you the Russian talking, and there are station names and there are letters and all sorts of stuff in it.
Wow. We've sort of talked about our love of BBC Radio and the origins of radio. I think the BBC started earlier than I realised. I didn't realise it was quite as old as it is. So after all of these different developments and people sort of started sending messages, lots of people started using radio on a very local, independent, enthusiast level. It wasn't corporate. There were lots of sort of individual people using it for their own various purposes. The very first regular radio station in Britain was called 2MT. I haven't been able to establish what that stood for. Based near Chelmsford, actually on the site of one of Marconi's original labs.
Okay.
And then shortly after them, in 1922, up came something called the British Broadcasting Company,
right?
The BBC. And this was just a group of amateur radio enthusiasts. They sort of, started selling radios. They started broadcasting information, not music, just, information. And they largely sort of set up this particular group in order to promote the sale of their radio sets.
Oh.
And then they sort of mysteriously disappeared. They completely shut down. And then very shortly afterwards, they opened up again, still called the BBC, now called the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Right.
And it suddenly became this sort of public service entity. They had previously been a commercial radio station, so they actually, used advertising to fund their way.
Yeah.
And yes, so that they were around for around 4 years, and then in 1926, as I say, they shut down on December the 31st, 1926, and reopened on January the 1st, 1927, under a new name, under new management, and with a completely different purpose. So who knows what happened there. And that's when the BBC came along.
I think the government may have had a little word.
Quite possibly so. The BBC sort of came to dominate radio somewhat. They had license fees, they had regulation, they had very sort of strict rules about what frequencies could be used, where you could transmit from, all that sort of stuff. And you mentioned already Radio Caroline.
Yes.
And the pirate radio stations. So they came about in the 1960s as very much a protest to the BBC's monopoly over all the radio waves.
We were hacked off because the light programme was playing Mantovani.
Okay.
And we went into Mantovani.
So you wanted something a bit more poppy and a bit more rocky and a bit more upbeat, and the BBC wouldn't let you. So what do? You go and rent a boat and you sail off the coast in international waters.
Offshore sufficiently. Yeah.
Yep. And then you broadcast to UK mainland from a location that's outside of the laws and regulations and the licensing and so on of the BBC, and you have this edgy, young, funky, rebellious, anti-establishment organisation of pirate radio.
Yes.
But it's really odd because I think of pirate radio as being, as I've just said, totally rebellious, totally, utter...
Kenny Everett, basically.
Kenny Everett. And then you sort of look down the list and you have people like Tony Blackburn and you have John Peel and people like this who now my generation, I would consider to be totally establishment.
Yes.
But obviously they weren't at the time.
No. Very, very young, exciting, dangerous, all that good stuff.
And it's weird because I can't help thinking of Tony Blackburn as sort of being a bit of a pastiche of himself, a little bit old-fashioned and a little bit redundant and irrelevant.
With his barking dog.
But yeah, the idea that these were rebels sitting in a boat broadcasting against the law is mind-boggling for me.
There are still people who broadcast for their own purposes. The ham radio is a massive thing, isn't it? I mean, you get in 1927, people started to use their own radio transmitters and receivers to talk to people all over the world.
Yeah.
Everybody had their own 5-letter call sign, and they had these things called QSL cards, which you would say when you got in touch with somebody, you would get their address, and there's like a postcard that you would send them, which was the QSL card, which had your details on it.
Oh,
it's a lovely thing. And then you get things like CB radio as well.
Yes, I was just going to say
people talking to each other.
That's to my mind, that's something that's used by truckers, isn't it?
10-4.
Exactly.
Actually, okay, I'm going to give you a quick test.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, 10-6.
Trouble ahead.
Busy. 10-20. What's your 20?
Your status or your location?
So your location, you're correct. 10-100.
10-100.
I'm going for a quick 10-100.
I'm just popping out for a cigarette.
Bathroom break.
Oh, so close.
And that was invented by a guy called Al Gross in 1945.
Okay. And that was sort of for the purposes of long-distance lorry drivers keeping in touch with base.
Yes.
And also with each other.
Originally with base, but then with everybody else, so that you could warn each other if there were smokies.
Smokies.
On the highway.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole language used by truckers. What is a good buddy?
You. Oh.
What is a county mountie?
No idea.
It's a local sheriff or deputy.
Oh, right.
What is a picture taker?
A photographer?
It's a policeman with a radar trap.
Oh, okay.
What is a roller skate?
No idea.
It's a small car.
Okay.
What is a Tijuana taxi?
Tijuana taxi. No idea.
It's a fully dressed, marked up police car or a two-wheeler motorcycle. I mean, it's just lovely. Yeah, lots of. I'll put a link in the show notes to all of the jargon.
I seem to associate this more with America. I don't know whether they do it in the UK as well, but I associate this very much as being an American truck driving thing.
It just sounds wrong in an English accent.
Yes.
Actually, you talk about giving warnings. The BBC used to do a thing called SOS messages. They don't do it anymore.
Oh, really?
But you used to hear people say on the radio, they would like break into the broadcasting. Here is a message for Simon Wells travelling in the southeast London area. Would Simon Wells travelling in the southeast London area please get in touch with his Auntie Mary, who is seriously ill in hospital at the moment?
Really?
Yes. And they would, the people would put these out, and eventually got to the point where they were doing a few too many, and they just decided to cut it right back. But so the BBC would send out nationwide SOS messages aimed at one person.
How very odd.
Which I think is a very interesting thing to do.
Yeah. That's a little bit like these days we sort of have the national crisis messages coming to your mobile phone.
Yes. But that's to everybody. This is just one particular person or family who was travelling and couldn't get in touch with them because there weren't any mobile phones.
Yes, of course.
And they didn't know where they were. So they basically just went out on the radio and said, if you're them or if you know them, tell them to get in touch. They're also quite useful in other ways with SOSs.
Okay.
I mean, the Titanic.
Yes. Yes.
So after the Titanic disaster in 1912, there was the mandated use of radio at sea in the 1912 Radio Act.
Oh, really?
So every vessel had to have a radio because they realised the importance of radio if a vessel was in trouble.
Yes.
But it was the Titanic going down that created all of that. Ever since, all over the world, if you've got a boat, you've got a radio.
Yes, mandatory, yeah.
Yeah.
How interesting. I was in a little town in Surrey the other day called Godalming, just near Guildford. And Godalming's greatest claim to fame seems to be the fact that that was the hometown of Jack Phillips, who was the radio transmission chap aboard the Titanic.
Oh, right.
And there are plaques and billboards and there's a sort of a local Wetherspoons named after him.
Because they didn't send SOS, did they?
There's some dispute as to whether he sent SOS or not. He sent CQD, which was the sort of established traditional code used at the time. One of his colleagues suggested, you should send that new SOS thing that I've heard about. Whether he did or not is up for debate. But after the Titanic, SOS very, very quickly became the new standard.
Do you know who the first radio DJ was?
No, I don't.
It was in 1908. There's a guy called Lee DeForest. And he was on his honeymoon.
Right.
And he decided to broadcast some music from the top of the Eiffel Tower, which used to be a radio mast. So there was a radio station within the Eiffel Tower.
Whoa. This is brand new information for me here. Really?
Yeah. They put a radio mast. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? It's a very tall building.
It does make sense, yes.
You put a radio mast on the top of it.
Right.
So there was one. And this guy was using it for sending music.
Whilst on his honeymoon?
Yes.
Brilliant. Was it sort of romantic music?
One hopes. Shall I take you through some interesting facts, Simon?
Only if you do it in a radio-style, pop-picking, here's Bruce's top 5 interesting facts about radio.
In at number 5, it's NASA. NASA has its own radio station called Third Rock. At number 4, you know the Slinkies? The ones that go downstairs. Yeah. So in Vietnam, they ran out of radio aerials, so they started using Slinkies as radio aerials. At number 3, in 1995, a New Zealand man went into a radio station with a bomb and insisted they play Rainbow Connection by Kermit.
Oh my goodness, that's an image.
At number 2, In 1971, a Calgary radio station was playing I Feel the Earth Move, the Carole King song, when the studio collapsed because there was an earthquake. And at number 1, a little-known fact, Big Ben is broadcast live every single hour.
Yes, I knew that one. Isn't that interesting? Rather than just recording it and having it on repeat, they actually live broadcast the bongs.
Since 1924.
Gosh.
And if you're standing at the bottom of Big Ben, you hear the bongs on your radio before you hear them in real life.
Oh.
Because the sound is going at the speed of light to your radio and the speed of sound to your ears.
Wow, that's brilliant. Thank you, Bruce, for your top 5.
You're very welcome. They're crackers, aren't they? They're really good.
Not half.
Are there any records to do with the radio? I mean, obviously you hear records on the radio, but are there any radio records?
That's a good contextual link. Very nice. Yes, there are. Lots and lots of them, so I've just picked a few.
Okay.
The longest radio DJ marathon.
Ooh.
I don't know how this is possible. I assume that he must have had a few minutes here and there to go and have a snooze in between records or something. I don't know. But apparently, Mario Blanco in Real in Spain did a DJ marathon for 207 hours.
How can you do that? You can't stay awake.
I don't know. I can only assume that he was sort of taking naps while records were playing or something. But it does seem very much that he did it as a solo effort.
He must have been going mad by the end of the 8th day.
Totally.
Wow.
The longest single radio play broadcast lasted for 72 hours, 30 minutes, 30 seconds.
Wow.
And that was played on Radio Vishnu in India. The largest collection of radio sets is in India again. It's a gentleman called Ram Singh Boodh, and he owns 1,257 radio sets.
Wow.
That's going to be quite a large house, I guess.
Yes.
And then the longest running weekly radio programme is called the Grand Ole Opry.
I know the Grand Ole Opry.
Do you?
They came to London.
Oh, really?
Quite recently, yeah.
That was probably for their 100th anniversary because they were established in 1925.
It may well have been.
And it's a country and western music programme.
Both types.
Both types. Good reference. Established in Nashville 100 years ago. And it's been going as a weekly show ever since. There you go.
Yeah, well, I've just about run out of bandwidth.
Yes, I think my broadcast has ended.
So before we go, should we ask people to do something for us?
We certainly should.
Would you be good enough to give us a 5-star review, please?
That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
And if you liked listening to this, then please subscribe to the channel on your podcast player.
Please do. And if you do so, you'll get a little notification every Thursday morning informing you that a new episode has arrived.
Give us a shout on email at hello@factoraly.com.
Yep.
We have a Facebook page. We also have a YouTube channel.
We do. You can get us on Spotify. You can get us on your favourite podcast player of choice.
Yes.
You can bump into us on the street and say, "Oi, love your show."
Yes, and you got that wrong.
So thank you very much for coming along to listen to us chatting about radio today. Please join us again next time for another fun-filled factual episode of
Factoraly.
Bye for now.
Au revoir.